E152. Life is challenging and difficult. No one gets out alive. Time to suck it up, Buttercup. Get ready for a monster-sized boot, aimed to help you get traction on personal change and get living. I am John Curran, your host. Join me as I share my journey, exploring the forces that motivate us to change and help us get through whatever life throws at us. A swift kick in the ass. Life on your terms. Welcome to another episode of A Swift Kick in the Ass. This is your host, John Curran, and today's topic, changing your reality. So, this show is about creating positive change, and we want to think that all change is possible, and we're told, all things are possible. You can grow up to be whoever you want to be. You can do this, you can do that. You do whatever you want if you can set your mind to it. But is that really, really true? And I have to say, it's not true. There are limits in our lives. The possibilities of our life, of our own personal life, are not endless. There are limits. There are limits in almost everything we do. And I think it's important to recognize that and recognize the value of having limits. Limits are not a bad thing because, as you find, within these limits, that's where the opportunity lies to create tremendous change in your life, tremendous opportunity to move forward. This is where the choices exist in between the limits that are put in place. Now, granted, we might get to understand our limits and recognize that we put those limits in our own, we did it to ourselves. We created these limits for ourselves. They're not really true limits. Or maybe someone else is putting a limit on you, and does it really apply to you? Are you giving it more weight or strength because you think you should? Again, I'm not going to tell you what to do on this show, but I want you to stand face to face, eye to eye, with your own life and your own reality. And look at the opportunities that you could take to perhaps make your reality better. Now, a lot of questions come up. Opportunity to do what? And it's a great question. What are we going to do? Think about it. You're out with your friends. You're going to go out to dinner with your friends. And it turns into like a 45-minute long discussion about trying to decide where to eat. It's there's plenty of opportunity. There are plenty of restaurants to open, or plenty of restaurants that are open when you're first starting the discussion. And maybe those restaurants are closing minute by minute because you can't make a frickin' decision about where to go. And you're wasting time. But it's okay because, a lot of people think it's, put a lot of importance on meals, and that's okay. And, it's kind of difficult to come to consensus sometimes. But in personal change, you're really just dealing with yourself. And, we all have these thoughts that come up, and that self-limiting thoughts. And sometimes I think I scratch my head a lot. I'm like, where the hell did that thought come from? It's not true. It's not valid. And it's not a true limit. It's just an attempt, for some reason, to limit me. And you have to recognize that. Now, reality is real, important to you. Think about it. Real, important to you. Reality. Now, we can do whatever we set our minds to do if it's important to us. But the truth of the matter is that there's so much that goes on in this world. There's so much that we could pay attention to that is real. It is tangible. You can hold it. You can see it. It's there. For all who breathe. All that are alive. This is what I would consider to be reality. This is the world that exists, whether or not we're here or not. With everything going on around us, it makes sense that we can only pay attention to so many things. And that's where our reality is formed, because we only pay attention to things that we see or deem important. Makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? If it's not important to you, or maybe it's not going to register with you, or maybe it's just that it registers, but you discount it. You're not paying attention to it. It's not important to you. That it falls outside of your reality because you choose that to be. That's a choice that you make. Like a lot of people don't want to think about death, and it is very morbid, and it's very sad when people die. I think about Tom a lot, and his story is over. It was a limit. That was the end of his life, but it wasn't the end of mine. And I'm now just kind of coming to terms with that myself, and carrying on, and one day I'll face death, but hopefully it's not for a long, long time. But everything is fragile, and time is fragile, and reality is actually very fragile. And think about it, it's so fragile that if something was important to you one day and then the next it's not, your life changes almost immediately, doesn't it? Think about it. That person that was in your life, the person that you moved in with because you thought, oh my gosh, they're just so great, and you want to just be with them all the time. And then you find out that they're a psycho, and they're maybe trying to kill you in your sleep. Let's hope not. That was a joke. Hopefully no one ever has had to go through that, like some people, like myself. And anyhow, as long as you're breathing, we're going to have limits. We're going to have things that are important to us, and that is really going to define our reality. We can't change the world, but we can change how we interact with it, and we can change what we view as being important. Remember, these are choices that we make. You can choose to put weight on something or not. It's important or it's not. And it's really up to you. So, in any case, I can go on and I can talk. And this podcast is really just talk. I guess the truth is, and this is true with any podcast, is the authenticity and honesty of whoever's putting that podcast together. You don't know if what they're saying is, out of pure kindness, out of their heart trying to help others and make this world a better place, or are they trying to just line their pockets? You don't know really who I am or the actions that I truly take. You only know what I present to the outside world. And I would doubt, I would take what I say, just with face value, and recognize that, I could just be talking. I might not be taking action in my life. This could be all words, and that's okay. This is for you to decide. The thoughts that we have and how we view reality really also defines our problems. Because if we don't see something as important, if we don't see it as a problem, is it truly a problem? The tree that falls in the woods when no one is around, does it make a sound? I think it does. But you're not going to care. Probably not going to hear it because you're hundreds of miles away. Who cares about a tree falling in a forest, thousands of miles away from you? It's not on your radar. It's the same thing with problems and things that happen around the world. They happen, yes. They're terrible, yes. Do they truly impact us? Yes and no. We can allow it. If we're human and someone dies, we're going to feel it. For whom the bell tolls, it might be me next. And, we can empathize. We can place ourselves in other people's shoes, hopefully, and try to walk in their moccasins. Try to walk in their shoes and see how life really is for them. But can we ever really truly understand and truly put ourselves in someone else's shoes? We can only build on the experience that we have. So, what are you doing in your relationship with your own reality? Are you looking at it square in the eye? Are you challenging it? Or are you faced away from your reality? Are you ignoring it? I like to think, that we kind of have I talk about limits in the beginning of the show, but we talk about limits and they're kind of like blinders. We have this view of reality. It's like a picture frame, and those blinders are kind of the frame of your reality. And that frame is going to contract and it's going to expand, depending on really your decision to do that, to look outside of the box or to just be focused on what you're doing. That how your view is going to change. Maybe you change direction. There's a lot of things that will affect how you view reality. For my reality, I have to say, and this is also what drives me for this show, is I think back about when I was growing up as a kid. And, my family had a small business, a printing business. Mom and Dad operated it. I operated the printing presses. I think my sister was away at college. But, there was a time in America where a small business owner could have, a couple kids, own their house, they own their cars. And maybe they don't even own their own business. Maybe they're just, an hourly worker, maybe like a mechanic or, something, a blue collar worker, someone who works with their hands, or a tradesman, or some other type of, tradesman. There was a time in their life where you could really live a good life, and live life on your terms. My dad certainly did that. I remember some parties where they'd invite neighbors over, and my dad was a printer, and he would barter with different business owners, like the butcher. And this one time, the butcher gave him some tremendous steaks, and my dad invited his friends over, and he had a party. In fact, the picture for this podcast is a picture of my dad when he was in Florida, and he's sitting, in the lounge chair in his, I guess he just came home from work, and he's sitting there drinking a beer, and you can just look at the look on his face. He's in heaven. That is his reality. He's probably thinking about all the people that were up north fighting the snow when he's sitting in the sun drinking a beer in Florida. Life was much different then. But he made my parents made the most out of the reality. They were very real, and they worked hard. But there was risk involved. They moved away from family. They took risk, and they made things happen. They found opportunity to make a better life. And I really think my dad and mom were entrepreneurs before the term was ever commonly used. And it's wonderful. That's the way I was raised, and I like to think I continue on that I'm always trying to better my life and live on my terms. But it is so difficult nowadays, and it's so difficult to lose track, and not only lose track, but to feel beaten by life. Life is difficult. It's challenging, and to stand up to it takes a tremendous amount of courage and persistence and fortitude. And, I get knocked down and I get up again, and nothing's going to keep me down. That's kind of been my attitude. It was Tommy's attitude. A swift kick in the ass is really about that motivational force that pushes you forward in a positive way and gets you going and says, you know what, you're not meant to stay in this crappy situation. Change it. You can do this. And sometimes we just need a hug and a swift kick in the ass. So we're always going to have blinders when it comes to reality. These are the limits that are set. Some are set in stone and we can't change them. Others, we can change them. But we have to be aware of what those limits are, what those blinders are, what we can and cannot do. And we have to be able to risk adversity when we're, trying to question these limits and trying to push them in order to get something better. And I think where we fool ourselves is to think that this is kind of a one and done deal. It's not. You're going to have to continuously rise to challenges. And as soon as you meet one challenge, another challenge is going to pop up. That's just the way life is. That's the swift kick in the ass. That's what keeps happening. And it's repeating, and it's going to. But turn it around. You can let life kick you in the ass, or maybe you can do a little kicking yourself. Improve your life for the better. Improve this world. Make this place a better place. When you do that, someone else is going to catch on and say, hey, you know what? I need to do the same thing. I need to do what's best for me. I want to be happy. I want to live a good life. I want to help others do the same. We're all in this together. And as this year closes out, I think this will probably be my last episode of 2023. I try not to date these episodes, but I think this one will be the last one. I thank you so much for listening to me, to allowing me the opportunity to speak with you about how to change your life for the better. And there's going to be a lot of great changes coming up in 2024. It's going to be awesome. I have some things planned. And I hope you'll join me. So, this is John Curran. This is Swift Kick in the Ass podcast. We'll talk to you next year. Peace. This marks the end of another episode of A Swift Kick in the Ass, placing it directly in the can. As much as I like to talk, even I have my limits. It's time to go. Catch me on the next show. For better or worse, whether you like us or not, please leave comments wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Twitter. Visit our home on the interweb. I think you can leave me a voicemail there. You can also email me at john@aswiftkickintheass.com. It's been my extreme pleasure. I hope you got a lot out of it. I hope you got your ass moving. Until then, until the next time, I'm out of here. Peace.